We're coming up on the third quarter. We are about to have two very serious bills coming out of the Senate, which will pretty much make or break what happens. That's my opinion.
It's the third quarter, but yet we still really don't have nouns and verbs on a piece of paper that is the actual legislation, and so that's made for a really tricky process, I think, for everybody. I think, you know, what we're in right now is in the process of trying to make the public option, the government-run plan option, radioactive, and
right.
That's what brings us all together.
Well, and I don't think our quarters were
The public plan is hugely important, but there are many other details that we've got to get straight, and we are the ones that can really set people straight on how these things work. Very few people know how plans operate.
But,
they don't.
You know, this whole notion that a government-run plan is necessary to keep private plans honest is offensive, and that's what's motivating our
and in a role for the agent and the broker. I mean, whether you're looking in an exchange or whatever comes out, we have to have a role for that broker, and the consumer needs that. They need that expertise, especially if you're putting people in who aren't familiar with terms that we throw around on a day-to-day basis, and expecting them to compare their options and make choices. They have to have, and it needs to be that professional advice. You know, the idea that you're going to put in an 800 number to answer those questions where you're looking at, and I know, Janet, you can speak on this issue, the level of expertise, training, and continuing education requirements that our guys go through now. You can't substitute that with somebody.
Well, I would just say that we have to make sure that the market reforms they make, including the structure of any exchanges, connectors, gateways, whatever you want to call them, is not something that will harm the private market in such a way that at the end of the day we'll say, oh, well, the private market changes didn't work, so now we have no choice but to go to a single-payer system.
Let's expect the carriers to carry our water on, but I think that there is, I mean, to the extent that you say it's ambivalence, I think that for the most part, the carriers, you know, understand that there's going to be a distribution system. I mean, you look at their major HMOs that we all know the name of that tried to go it on their own, that are now essentially broker-based. Now they assume that distribution is going to be part of it, and they're fighting on the big core issues.
I mean,
for themselves.
the carriers don't use brokers today because we lobbied them to do that. They use it because it's an efficient way of conducting business.
Yeah. If they could get rid of us and be successful, they would. But the reality is they can't, and I think they do recognize that.
And they've tried it before, and it never does work for them. And I do think, and again, it goes back to this issue of there's more to a broker's role than signing a piece of paper or having someone say, check here. There's a lot more to it. There's a lot of needs analysis done and claims assistance that can't be done through a toll-free number or a call center or by checking a box on a website.
I think we're so focused on the fight right now. Sure, you have you know, backup plans, so to speak, but we're not willing to give an inch at this point. And so we're focused on the fight at hand, and then it sounds like the decision will be made very quickly, as we said earlier.
Get the best possible deal that we can out of this legislation, because you know, we're not opposed to health care reform. One of the things that we talked about at the table a whole lot is what are you fighting against, but we're actually fighting for something. So we're going to try to make sure that whatever is ultimately introduced and passed is something that we can embrace and is going to be good for us.
I would agree with that. I will say that, you know, we do, I'm always looking at Plan B and what do we do if we need to take some additional action. One of the things that we're looking at is that virtually every version of the legislation triggers something that the states have to do. So we have a pretty big state operation, and we figure that we'll have another shot at some of these things to fine-tune some of them so that they'll work better on a state basis. I think we have many champions on the Hill that understand the role of brokers, and before we're done, we're going to make sure that they all understand